It's fascinating. You're 22 and married, and you're 18, and it's your first year here. What is it like life for you after this past summer, this past May, getting married in Madison?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been fun. It's definitely different, having a married partner in your life, especially after camp, after you've been through a long day and you have the opportunity to go back to the one you love. So that's been great and nice. And just, outside of that, it's been great. She's my greatest supporter, and just being able to have a supporter to go back home to is amazing. So, yeah.
Love it. So you got some consistency, a lot of newness for you. How has it been since you've arrived on campus as we near the end of camp?
It's been great. I can't complain at all. These dudes have welcomed me like no other. It's been real cool. I knew all the coaches coming in. And then, East Lansing's been cool. I can't complain at all. East Lansing's welcomed me just like the team has. And can't complain at all. It's been cool. Yes, sir.
How important was it for you once you decided to go into the portal to come someplace where you had some familiarity with the coaching staff?
Very important. This is the staff that believed in me the most, how I felt out of high school. And, I stuck with it. These are coaches that trusted me. They trusted me to go in every third drive last year. I was 17 years old playing with them, and they trusted me to go in and keep the lead or, play even when they was down. And it really showed that they believed in me and wanted to see what I can do on the big stage. So I really appreciate them for this opportunity, and I'm going to just keep going with it. Yes, sir.
What's it been like integrating into this system? So many new faces here. How have you guys worked together and tried to build that chemistry that you need?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that word you just use is that chemistry, and all throughout fall camp we've been building that, and really started in spring ball, with the new offense and new coaches, everyone trying to be familiar with everybody, just like you were saying.
Yeah.
Now in the summer with so many new faces, offense and defense side of the ball, and then really just honing in on the details this fall camp and building that chemistry and building our own identity as an offense, which has been great. And I think that we've made a lot of great strides since the spring, and that we have a lot of things to continue to go forward with, and I think we're in a really good position right now.
You've added some weight. How has that helped you on the field?
Honestly, I just feel stronger. That's really the biggest thing. I haven't seen it, I don't see it when I wake up, but, I feel bigger. I feel stronger, can throw the ball a little further, can run, move a little quicker, move a little faster. It feels good, can't complain about it, so yeah, yes, sir.
I don't know if you've seen him play back in the day, but he was running the same scheme, very similar to what you're running now. So how has it been for you in this new system with Keith Bonafa leading the running back group?
No, but it's been great. Just like you're saying, I've been a part of so many different systems, so many different offensive schemes. So it's been nice to kind of grow my wisdom as far as the offensive side of the ball and knowledge, to kind of see how different coaches coach different things, how different things are blocked, different terminology. And just with this offense, it's a lot more free. It's a lot more fun for me to use my skills and abilities to be able to perform on the field. And I'm having a lot of fun running this offense. And, I think we're going to make a lot of plays, not just on the running back room, but wide receivers, tight ends, really on all scales of the offense. We're going to make a lot of plays this year.
I think leadership is a word that's often thrown around, especially around quarterbacks. But everybody's got a different style. How have you described yours, and how has it developed since you've gotten here under this staff?
When you first get to a new place, you're a little timid, new guy, just trying to make your way. But as I grew closer with the team and came together, the biggest thing we focus on is energy. Like we've talked about it, just energy. Come in, focus on what we do, and it's like 10 and 1. Do your job, and just talk, just be able to communicate with your guys, and you just know them better, just be cool.
Yeah, the quarterback position, double down on that for me, if you will. So much attention gets thrust on you, expectations from others on you. How do you navigate other people's expectations?
I don't really look into it too much, really. I have all these guys around me. I really don't have to do too much. All I got to do is get the ball to them. That's my goal. But the O-line does great. Nate's, he tote that thing, And then the receivers, we got a good receiver core, tight ends. Everybody can get the ball. Like, we have weapons and talent all over the field. It's really not on me at all. I don't see no pressure. No, I don't feel anything,
I love that. Yeah. Every coach is going to hear that answer. For you guys in this team, how has it come together in the first training camp under this staff?
Man, I think it was a great process for us, and Coach Smith preaches a lot about the process. And from the beginning of the training camp, from us, not just on the football field, but even getting to know each other off the football field, as simple as knowing your teammates' names, and the process of that, and us growing as a brotherhood and as a family, that starts with what you do off the field. And then once you grow in that, once you can be able to look your brother in the eye and know their name, be like, hey, I love you, now you can go on the field, you can fight for them, and that's what Coach Smith has been preaching to us. It's just that process-driven mindset, and throughout the whole entire season we're going to be living that out of process-driven mindset.
We cannot wait to come back and watch it this fall. Congrats on the marriage, man. That's huge. Best decision you've ever made, guys.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Michigan State's linebacker room certainly has it all. Depth, experience, talent. Cal Haladay, Jordan Hall joining us now to talk about that and what's ahead for this new chapter of Michigan State football. So I'm going to start with you. This is your 5th year in the program, 4th camp. What feels different this time around?
I would say the energy. I think everybody's really excited about this year, and everybody's really locked into what we're doing, and everyone's buying in, I would say, and you could just feel it around the building and in meetings and everything that we do practice. You can just feel the vibe that everybody's really getting into it and really excited and anxious to get to the season. So everyone's getting pretty ready to go.
It's right around the corner. It's almost here. And Jordan, for you, I think last year you led Big Ten freshmen in tackles for loss and sacks. What's the next step for you? And talk to me about Joe Rossi's defense and how that adjustment has gone.
So the goal this year is just to keep expanding on, making those plays in critical situations. And having Coach Rossi as the D coordinator and your linebacker coach really helps with, knowing the entire defense, knowing everybody's job, and having somebody to confide with, who runs the whole defense that knows everything that can assist you on and off the field.
Jordan, define and describe Coach Rossi to us.
A great coach. He knows his stuff. He makes sure that he has a vision for the defense, and he's done a great job being a leader and having the whole team buy into that. Very vocal. He knows what he expects from us, and he knows coming out here every day for practice what he wants to see, and it's just our job to do that.
I think about your career here, and you stay through the coaching change. What has it been like with Jonathan Smith coming in? And you talk about the energy and kind of the renewed life, but talk to me about the decision to stay here and close out your Sparty career.
I just wasn't the way things ended last year. Last year's in the past, but the way things ended last year wasn't ideal, and I was looking forward to coming back and going out with a good year, and I'm excited. I think everything's made a change for the better, and I'm just excited to get back out there on the field.
Biggest positive of the transition?
I'd say that we're a very close team. We talk about 61 new guys on the team, and we've been doing stuff throughout camp to get closer with everyone. And I think that everyone as a team has been getting a lot better at knowing each other, and just little things like that has been a really big point of emphasis.
Jordan, give us another positive about the transition.
I kind of want to say thing about being connected with one another. Coach Smith has done a really good job making sure that we all don't just stay in our little friend groups. We're out talking to different positions, really getting to know each other on a more personal level.
Culture and connection is so important for a team to achieve what it wants to achieve. The linebacking room, you guys have it all. This is a stack. Joe Rossi was saying that this is maybe the best linebacking core that he's ever coached. Talk to me about that room and what it's like to feel like you guys are kind of the heartbeat of this defense and what you think you're capable of this year.
I think I would agree with Coach Rossi. I think that we have one of the more talented linebacker rooms in the country, and we have a room with a bunch of guys who want to work and want to get better. And that just puts a lot of emphasis on our job defensively of what we're expected to do. But the great thing about our room is that we all know those expectations, and Coach Rossi gives us the tool to meet those. So we're excited about that. We're privileged to have the opportunity to lead the defense.
Jordan, tell us about Coach Smith. He's at practice. He doesn't say much. What's he like when he's with the team?
A little more talkative than he is at practice, but he knows what he wants, and he knows what he wants to see. And when we are in a team setting, he gets his points across. Pulls great examples from practice about what he's seeing, maybe some things that he doesn't like to see, but he's a great leader. He's been doing a really good job about making sure that we're all connected and knowing each other on a personal level to prepare for the season coming up.
Kyle, how would you describe Coach Smith?
I think he's to the point. He knows what he wants, like he said. He brings up team meetings, and he knows what he wants, and he knows how practice wants to be run. He knows how the culture and the buy-in of everything he wants to be. So it's very easy to follow. He keeps it simple so that we can do it at a high level.
Before we let you guys go, would love your perspective on Aidan Chiles. I think a lot of fans are excited to see him play. What have you noticed?
I think he's a really good player. He's got a good arm, good athlete, and I think he's going to be a really good quarterback. And I think he'll make a lot of plays.
Yeah, same thing here. Over the course of spring ball and camp, he's made a lot of improvements on the field, but just being a vocal leader kind of for that offense, that kind of morale. I don't know how he is on camera. I've never seen him, but he has a lot of energy on practice.
You'll have to watch the show.
I was just going to say, make sure you tune in.
He has a lot of energy at practice and just around the building, so I'm excited to see how he uses that to, influence the offense and get some points on the board.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to watch you guys play this year. Best of luck. Stay healthy, and we'll be watching.
Thank you.
Joined by defensive coordinator Joe Rossi. We've spent some time together in different spots, right? What was the draw and the attraction to Michigan State for you?
Yeah, I think, it starts with just Coach Smith. He's, I think, known throughout the country being a great guy to work for and just a really good person. It was really tough to leave. I had a great situation at the school that I was at before at Minnesota. PJ was a great guy to work for, too, ran a really good program. But it's closer to home for me. This is the closest I've ever been in my coaching career. I'm a Pittsburgh guy. My wife and I have had more family over since June than we've had in probably 5 years combined in Minnesota. And then I think there's some things here, some pieces in place to be able and go to have a successful run. Obviously this is year one, and we're in the process of implementing the schemes and the culture, and it's been really good. The guys have been receptive, but I think there's some real positive things going on here.
When you talk about being able to implement your system, how much of that will we be able to recognize from your time at your previous stops?
Yeah, I think you're going to see the bones of it, right? I think a couple things. Anytime you come somewhere new, what do your players do well, and what don't they do well? So you always got to tailor your scheme to what your players do well. The second thing is it's year one. That was really basically the sixth season of that defense being run last season. So it's just a little bit different level in terms of the stages. So, what do you need for the season based on the schemes you're playing? What can your players handle? So our defense is our defense, but we got to tailor it to where you're at.
How much and how often do the coaches ask you about the Big Ten teams and what it's like coaching in this conference and recruiting in this conference?
Yeah, I think early on there was probably more of those questions. Having been here and been in both sides of the league, obviously now we're combined, but really recruiting that footprint, the style of play, the weather, I think that factors in obviously. So I've been able to be a little bit of an outlet there. I think when we get in season two, it'll help a little bit just having been to the different venues and played and been in those locker rooms, and some of them are better than others, as we know. So I think I can help out there.
I think the number is 61 new players in the program. I don't know how many are on defense, but how does that impact your install now that the portal is so active?
Yeah, I think what the players handle is the gauge. And what I mean by that, I think I've been around coaches before that say, hey, listen, we're going to throw everything at them and see what they retain. That's not necessarily our thought process. Ours is, let's be good at what we're doing, and let's be able to get it lined up and execute and play fast. The best defenses I've ever been around can play fast, and if sometimes when you're putting too many things in, that slows down the ability to play, and that's not what you want.
Do you find that it takes longer with the portal players than it does in traditional way?
I think the portal players learn faster than the high school players because they have the experience of playing college football. I mean, maybe it was called something different, but a lot of the players have some recall because they've run similar concepts.
Talk to us a little bit about maybe the unit that's out front and then the unit that's going to needs to continue to build depth at.
Yeah, I think our linebacking core is deep. It's probably the deepest linebacking core that I've been fortunate to coach. And there's some good players that were here. There were some good players that we added in the portal. There's some good players we brought in as freshmen. So I'm really excited about that group. The other groups I'm excited about as well, too. On the D-line, I think we've got really a lot of guys that can go play snaps for us, and you'll see us rotating a lot of people. And then the same thing in the back end at secondary. I think there's a lot of guys that can go in and play for us. So I think the one thing about this defense in general, there's a lot of guys that can play. Okay, we have some depth from that standpoint. So that gives us the ability to rotate and get guys involved.
As you start to transfer, sorry about that, Coach, as you start to transfer from training camp into the season, what's that progression like for you from a coaching standpoint and a player standpoint?
Honestly, you're narrowing down your calls, because in training camp, like, everything is in, your menu is bigger. When you get into an opponent prep, you're going to tailor that menu to who you're playing. And oftentimes that's less because there's things you're carrying for something maybe that's a different style that this opponent doesn't run. So I think you shorten it up, you get it concise, and then maybe there's some game plan decisions. Not maybe, there is game plan decisions on how you're going to play some things. So that's really the transition.
What's left undone between now and the end of camp?
Some special situations. Maybe some things that you don't see from your offense, but you're getting prepared for. Maybe some scenarios that maybe come up one time during a season, and then camp will be over, and then we're rolling into game week.
Appreciate
Coach, yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, appreciate your time, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Coach, appreciate you spending some time with us. Describe to us the style of the Michigan State offense.
Yeah, no, we're a pro-style system, kind of bringing that over from Oregon State, and we pride ourselves on running the football and then marrying the run and the pass to keep defenses off balance. And we really believe that our commitment to the run game is going to open the opportunities for explosive passes on the outside for us, and that's something that we pride ourselves on, and had some success with it and excited to bring it to a new conference.
Part of that style puts a lot of pressure on the offensive line. How's their development coming?
They've been improving a ton, and we've challenged them with a little bit of some new schemes, some new technique stuff up front, but Coach Mahalchek's one of the best in the business as far as development with that group, and it's been a work in progress, but it's been awesome to see those guys take steps throughout fall camp and look forward to continued improvement as we move through the season.
Aidan Chiles, we're going to ask about him. Yeah. Only 18 years old. You recruited him. You've been around him for a long time now. How do you create adverse moments for him so you know and trust that he can handle it? Or is it just based on experience and let him go out and see how he does?
No, it's a little on experience, but especially with a young guy who hasn't really started a game. You try to create as much of that as you can in practice against a really talented defense. Coach Rossi has that group that give us a lot of different looks up front, and Coach Smith gives us, puts us in a lot of different situations, from 2-minute drills and to competitive deals, and that brings out the adversity, and it's been awesome to see him mature in that way and kind of how he's handled some of those situations.
We had him on earlier, and he was asked, you went into the portal, why'd you come here? And he talked about how you guys identified him early on. One of the first offers, and stuck with him when the rest of the country wasn't necessarily calling or texting or DMing him. What did you notice, and what was the story about how you found him?
Heard the name kind of in Southern California, and he had an injury, I think, his junior year, and so he didn't have a lot of film, and went and watched him practice, and just the energy that he had and the way that the ball came out of his hand. I mean, you could just tell that he was going to blow up and have a great year, and just had that personality, I felt like, to be able to handle the spotlight and be a leader that guys would rally around. And then he had a big year, his senior year. It was fun to follow him, and it was awesome, and we were able to get him kind of committed that summer prior to that and hang on to him.
Where does he need to grow the most?
I've really challenged him on just his consistency, his everyday consistency, and more so kind of off the field. Kind of challenged him to handle himself like a pro in the way that he goes about the meeting and the way he studies his opponent, to the way he carries himself in walkthroughs, and kind of starting to develop it into a leader for our offense. I feel like he's awesome when he gets on the practice field and we're going. He's got that great energy. He's competitive, but just really challenging him that to be great at this level, you gotta take it to the next step off the field, in the meeting room, and all the amount of time that you put in away from the practice field.
As you study the traditional Big Ten defenses, anything jump out at you that's different maybe from your past experiences?
I haven't had a chance to study the defenses too much. I'm excited just to having been in the Pac-12 for the last 11 years. Guys have a pretty good notebook on you, right, to go play against some different schools and some different coordinators, and excited just to for a new challenge that way, and hopefully play a couple games that start at noon instead of 7:30 at night.
I love it. Well, Coach,
appreciate your time, Coach.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate having me.
And the head coach of Michigan State joining us now. Coach, it's great to see you, and I will say it was so fun to watch what you did at Oregon State and what you built in Corvallis. So let's start with that. In what ways does this job feel the same, and in what ways is it different?
Yeah, there's some similarities. Anytime you come in year one, new, trying to build some trust, lay a foundation, culturally, standards, things of that nature, identity, I think about on, all three phases, special teams, offense and defense. So there's some similarities there. Differences in location, conference, that kind of thing, but I'm excited about the opportunity.
you do have some familiarity. You bring in about 15 staff members. You got 3 guys from Oregon State, so there is some familiarity there. But I loved what you were saying to me earlier today at practice, just that this feels like home. Like this feels like it's the right fit. So for you personally, what is the transition been like?
We do feel great. Just the community, how welcoming they've been. For not just all the 15 that came over, the 15 families that came over, mine included, feeling a part of the community already. The neighborhood, the fan base, the passion they've got behind Michigan State football. Feel great about being a part of it.
Coach, you were telling us 61 players on this roster were not on this roster a year ago. So I want to kind of back up a little bit to what Ashley was asking you just about building the program and maybe the similarities. But the big difference is that we're in a different time in college football, even than when you started in Corvallis, just with how transient players can be, both coming in and leaving.
Yeah.
So how is the model different now with kind of the way that it's structured versus what it was when you were at Oregon State, and how does that impact what you're trying to do?
Yeah, there's definitely some differences. You think about recruiting off, 6 years ago at Oregon State, and at that time, and the transfer portal wasn't around, so you have more deep-rooted relationships with guys. And so you fast forward to where we're now. Some of this recruiting, especially in the portal, goes pretty quick, right? And so we've worked really hard this August to just build connection and trust and try to lay some foundation that we are more deep-rooted in this ultimate team game.
And part of it, obviously, is building the staff, and you mentioned you had 6 coaches come with you.
Yep.
I want to ask about one who didn't come with you, one who is new to you, and that is Joe Rossi, someone who we know really well here in the Big Ten. This is his 3rd DC job in the Big Ten. What appealed to you about Joe? What made it feel like he was the right fit?
Yeah, a lot. Coming over, wanted to have some background, someone that had identity or a history in the league, and then you started looking around, and this guy's resume, what he would have been able to do at multiple spots, and especially recently at Minnesota with the type of defense he's playing, and then ultimately getting to know him aligned and how we're coaching it, how we're teaching it, those type of things. I feel awesome. All he brings schematically, recruiting-wise, and the type of guy he is.
I think a lot of fans are excited about Aidan Chiles and what he can bring to this offense. What have you seen from him? And I think you reminded us he's going to be 19 in September. He's never started a game. So what have you seen from him as he's kind of grown over fall camp?
He has grown. Physically, he's gained some weight, but obviously he's had some background in the offense coming over, running something similar terminology-wise and all of that. He's helped offensively, working with the receivers. Jack Velling comes along and Tanner Miller, so that front has some familiarity with the terminology. But we're excited about the opportunity for Aidan. He's not going to be able to do it by himself. He needs some help around him. And I think he's done a great job of connecting, not just on offense, but on defense too, amongst his team.
Where's kind of the biggest question mark for you right now? I know there's question marks all over, and going, a week and a half before the season starts, there's a lot of things that you still, I'm sure, feel like you need to do. But where is the biggest question?
Yeah, we talked about it, 61 new players, not as deep-rooted. When adversity comes, we know that's going to come. This game is competitive week in and week out, and so how we come together and handle adversity when we're tested, because we're going to be.
I want to ask you about some position groups. When they've been really good here, and again, for those of us who've been coming here for 18 years now, you see trends. When they've been really good, offensive line's been good, secondary's been good. Those areas have not been as good here in the last few years, maybe with the exception of the Kenneth Walker year on the offensive line. Give me a sense of each one of those groups and where you feel like you are in terms of progressing.
Yeah, I think we're progressing, starting on the offensive front. We've got some guys that have some experience. We need to build some depth in that room, and that's what fall camp's for, and these guys have been working. But we want to be developing because the game starts up front, and we know this. And so we feel we got 5-6 guys right now. We feel awesome about putting in the game. We want to get that number closer to 10. In the secondary, we've got some new faces, and those new faces, I think, created some competition back there throughout fall camp, more reps for guys. And so we feel that, guys are going to compete and challenge in the back end.
Big picture question for you, and I kind of asked you a little bit about this at Media Days, but we're talking about a program here that has made the 14 college football playoff, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a program that when it's going can really be elite. So now in this 12-team playoff era, I mean, it feels like a team that should be able to be in that conversation frequently. What do you see as the formula here? Like, as you look at it and say, here's how we're going to be good, What does that look like?
Right. We talked about the physicality on both sides of the ball. I think this place wants to make the game physical. That fits exactly my background and what we want to do, this passionate fan base of tradition and this home field advantage that can be. I think about, as you build your roster from inside out, the quality of player, that location-wise, in the state of Michigan and down into Ohio, driving distance to Chicago, building this thing inside out roster-wise.
Coach, it's good to see you.
Yeah.
I'm still getting used to you wearing green.
yeah.
But it is great to see you. We're excited to watch what you're able to do here.
Yeah, thanks for coming, guys.
Is it fair to say you didn't have a whole lot of green in your wardrobe?
Totally fair to say.
Yeah.
Even back, Corrales, he was at Washington before that. That's 10 straight years of not wearing green.
Well, it suits you well.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Welcome
Thanks,
to the Big Ten.
Thanks.
We got a gorgeous day here in East Lansing. Our thanks to Michigan State for the access as we put a bow on this training camp tour stop with a look at what's coming in year one with Jonathan Smith, one of 4 teams in the country with 4 straight ranked opponents on their schedule. Ooh, you look at that stretch starting September 28th. Ohio State, then Friday night on the road at Oregon, back home against Iowa, and at Michigan to close out the month of October. That is a gauntlet. It all officially kicks off August 30th against FAU right here on Big Ten Network. For some final thoughts on the schedule and the day, here's Dave, Yogi, and Howard. Guys?
Ashley, thanks. As we wrap things up, to Ashley's point, there's a brutal stretch in the middle there, those 4 successive games. You talk about Ohio State and Oregon in a span of 6 days, because you talk about a Friday night game as well. It is not going to be easy there for Michigan State.
Yeah, it won't be easy. And in those type of games where you're probably going to be outmatched, it's really about playing as clean a game as you can. And what I mean by that is not turning the football over, not giving up a bunch of penalties and doing things like that hurt. Because I think when you start to play teams of that caliber, you just need to make sure your team is playing hard and you're executing what you want to do. You're going to give up some plays, but as long as you know that you're playing hard, that's, I think, the way to evaluate this team as they continue to move.
Yeah, I think they'll be schematically set up to compete in all of those games. The challenge will be, how are you when the game is over? How are you in advance of the next one? Because I look at 8 games on the schedule and say, yep, Aidan Chiles is the guy we think he can be. If they can run the football, if Jack Velling can become the tight end, you guys know Joe Rossi as well as anybody, they're going to have a shot to make a little bit of noise. It's just that middle part, to your point, Dave, that is just so brutal. And the thing that is reality around this team, compared to Ohio State, compared to Oregon, is their competitive depth. Year one, it makes sense. 61 new players. How healthy are they when they come out of those ball games?
And I'm not suggesting that they can't win one or more of those games, but when you look at what happened last year, again, in an admittedly very unusual year, it was the ranked opponents that really outclassed them. They were outscored 170-10 in their games against ranked opponents. So can you be a little bit more competitive? Maybe you pull off an upset or 2 along the way. We know the history here of knocking off highly ranked teams. It's something that's very much in their DNA. But the reality is, at least in terms of the outside projections, they're picked 16th in the unofficial Big Ten preseason poll. So what would need to happen here, Yogi? And maybe you touched on a little bit of it in your previous answer there, but elaborate if you would. What would need to happen for them to be better than that?
Well, in a soundbite, I think programs, especially new programs in year one, they're either coach-fed or player-led. Right, so the first couple weeks, training camp, we talked earlier about Jonathan Smith's team meetings. They're amazing, right, in terms of how he's coaching guys how to think, how to approach the craft. At some point, you got to take control of that thing in the locker room, and it is a process, especially in year one. So if they can get some success early on, which they got a great shot to do that in the first month of the season, can this thing in those games, can they mature in front of our eyes? If so, they have, I believe, a top 3rd quarterback in this league from being around this conference. Aidan Chiles can just do things that a lot of guys can't. Yes, he's young. Yes, he only has 91 career snaps in games, but look out if he starts to become the confident player, can drop his shoulders and make plays in critical moments, this team is going to be scary every Saturday.
Yeah, and you talk about being coach-driven right now and coach-fed, and that's where they are, and that's okay because they're understanding what's going to be expected of them. Yogi, I always talk about you can know exactly what's coming from the front of the room by talking to the leaders and talking to the players on this team, and it's about getting to understand one another. Getting to know one another, because if you have chemistry between one another and your teammates, you're going to play a lot harder than you would for people you don't know. So it's important for that team to come, or for Michigan State for that matter, to come together as quickly as possible. It's no doubt that they're going to play hard, but it's about being able to execute.
Yeah, and it was interesting in listening to Cal Haladay and Jordan Hall, they were talking about connection, right? And that's not an easy thing to do when you got all kinds of guys who are thrown together, and those are guys who have known each other for a while, but we're talking about 61 new players and all that, and that's going to be a fascinating part of this narrative here. New staff, a lot of new players. How does everyone gel? Speaking of a new staff and some new players, our next stop is Michigan. As you may have heard, they have a coaching change there as well. The Wolverines coming off a national championship, but first year with Sharon Moore as the full-time head coach. 2 new coordinators. Going to be a fascinating stop tomorrow. That is coming up here on the Big Ten Network. We will bring you Michigan's preseason practice as we count down towards the season. Thanks to everyone here for a fantastic day at Michigan State. Really always appreciate the hospitality. We will see you from Ann Arbor next time here on the Big Ten Network as the practice tour continues.